idea of she does see differently. And that's something about artists, is they're often misunderstood. They are often mocked and undervalued because they see things differently. But I'm going to ask Alex to offer Melany notes on her piece today.
Yeah. Hang on, let me just get oriented. Yeah, actually, my comments are relatively simple for this chapter. So this is the second, well, the last third, more or less, of the chapter from last week, and I think it rounded it out nicely. I think it, sort of, obviously there are going to be changes to the bit that we read last week, which you mentioned in your note. So I think given all that together, I think it feels to me like it probably will work. And I agree with Pam that I think there's just a couple places where you could add a little bit more about sort of what she's thinking and what she's feeling moment by moment. Let's see, I got one on page 2. Yeah, sort of near the bottom. Yes, she was aware of his fondness for Oak Bend. We could tell that, so no need to over-explain that. Why he was drawn to its limitations never made sense to her. I didn't quite know which limitations, and I wanted just her perspective on what those were. Other sentence, whatever. I think knowing what she thinks about him would give us a lot of insight into her. And I think that's probably where most of these are gonna circle. Next one is the middle of page 3. Lots of things can kill you, Anna said after the smoking thing. Anybody who's ever smoked knows this conversation very well, and it never stops being annoying. So Anna said, challenging him. The line already challenges him, so we know that. To which he had no response. I wanted to just see what he looked like, what's his expression, and again, what's her read on his expression, because she knows him pretty well, and just to sort of what is she thinking he's thinking through his face. Just a spot there. It would be nice to learn more about her and him too. There was one on the top of page, where are we? 4. Ryan, they both laughed, that paragraph. Ryan caught Anna up on all the news. I think just a line or two about what news, like what's going on in the town since she left last, or since, like just a little gossip would probably be fun about the town from his perspective. And then possibly her reflection on that too. So that one you could actually add several sentences there potentially.
Actually could work very nicely and is in sync with that, what Adam was saying earlier too.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Near the bottom of that, there was a line I really liked. An exterior street lamp cast a soft hue around him, making his departure feel more consequential, more prophetic. I like that line. And actually, that was one where I stopped and I thought, like, I want to know more. And then I thought, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm okay with learning about that later. But I like the line anyway. And then I think there was only one. There was one on page 6, the very end. This 34, more and more she lost herself until she found her sense of joy. I thought that was a nice philosophic statement, but I wanted it to be concrete and know what she means by that. And maybe it's just not obvious enough for me, and maybe I missed something earlier in the chapter that I'm not remembering. But that was a line where I was like, that's a meaningful...
The spiriting away of the 34 is that doesn't answer the question. I think I can be very subtle because I love subtext and I think I do it too much.
I've been told that. Yep. I mean, I'd say the number one comment I've ever gotten in workshops after doing them for 30 years is be more obvious. Like nobody's ever said that directly, but that's my interpretation of it almost every time. Be more obvious.
But I kind of wonder though, if there's a type of reader that likes subtext and likes to look for those things. And I wonder about that sometimes. Because I have been told a lot that I have too much subtext, and I don't know. Sometimes I wonder.
I think the answer is that subtext is fine, but you need to be able to get the story across in a way that the majority of your readers will understand without having them guessing and frustrated. And think about a poem that you might read where you can understand the thrust of the poem by reading it through, but then you can spend hours looking at the subtext of it as well and get even more from it. So it has to work on several different levels, I think would be the answer to that.
Yeah, I think you want for your story, because it's an adult story, you want a 15-year-old to be able to read it and get something. You want the 35-year-old to be able to get something, and you want the 95-year-old to be able to get something, right? Like, so that there's always going to be stuff the reader doesn't understand, doesn't catch, doesn't see. So if you're, and you and I think we're sort of similar in the way that we go about the writing process, at least the way it looks. So there's always going to be subtleties that you're the only one who ever catches.
Layers, Melany, layers.
And they're there. And I think, yeah, just like, feel free to just reveal a few more, especially if it tells us more about Anna. Like that's really the key. Is like if there's a little detail where a thought can give us more about where she's coming from, what she's thinking, her perspective, and it speaks ideally also to the arc of the plot. It's worth adding as many sentences as necessary, and then you can always cut one later.
Yeah, true enough. Thank you, Alex, for that. That was very helpful. How about you, Stacey? I can see the wheels turning, Stacey.
I was just thinking about the last paragraph as well, that Alex was talking about. I didn't understand the paragraph. I couldn't tell if she was drunk, if she was dancing, why she took a swing at him, and yet how was that boxing swing playful? So I just didn't get it. And I think I saw the 34 as a reference to her age when I should have seen it as the 34 referring to his jersey. I didn't connect that until we were talking about it now. So the general paragraph I just didn't understand quite well. And then the 34 I interpreted it wrongly, embarrassingly. That's like mystery writing right there. But
it's a note to the writer. It's important. You don't miss a lot. Okay.
Well, and I think it just depends on how important that 34 is to the story. If it's just a subtle little subtext, then I think the way you did it is great because some people will catch it and others won't. But if it's real important, then I do think you need to shine a little bit more of a light on it. But overall, I thought this was a good finish to the chapter. Thinking back to our last time together, I still think I like Jackson more than Ryan for some reason. And I think it's because I tend to be drawn to characters that have a stilted past, that feel a little bit lost, that's, not he doesn't have everything together. He seems a little tragic yet lovable. And
underdog.
Yeah, he's an underdog. And so I feel a little more drawn to him in that regard.
Mhm.
Let me go through. I had a couple things that jumped out at me. I do like we talked about at the very top of the decision there. Little things that threw me off. The first paragraph, he slid out a chair for Anna and sat down beside her. So I'm trying to picture this. If this is a foretop, is he around the corner, or is it a table where there are two chairs on either side and he's sitting next to her, facing the same direction? Again, it was just one of those dumb things that I was like, how is he sitting? Because if he sat in a booth next to her, that says something about his character, which is weird when couples do that between us. But if he's sitting around the corner on a foretop, that feels normal, but it didn't say that. It said beside him. So again, it's a stupid detail that kind of threw me out for a little bit. Hazel, how old is Hazel?
She's very young, like 3.
Okay. I would feel like Anna would ask as a reminder how old she is, just because when you haven't been around someone and they have kids, now how old is she again? And then that's also a clue to the reader, because I was picturing her like 10 or 12 years old or something. And so it just a little thing there, because it just made me wonder. The bottom of page 1, I'm pretty sure Anna is making a pun there. I don't know what to do about that, but we don't get Ryan reacting to that. And so I felt like there was okay, did I read this right? I think I did. But then I need to see Ryan playfully react to her and chuckle or something there, because I think it's a character moment that we didn't really get.
Mm-hmm.
Middle of page 3, and I think you do this, but it a couple times. One is right here, and one is at the very end of the chapter where you very subtly and quickly change perspectives. Jackson walked back to the bar without waiting for her response. He preferred for their cat and mouse interactions to happen in private. So you're switching perspectives there. And then you do it again, I think, at the very end of the chapter, just to note, so that you're aware of that. Yeah, the very last line of the chapter, Jackson listened to the song and watched her unmoving. So just so you're aware of that. Also, they make a big deal about her smoking, but unless I missed it, I didn't catch her lighting up anywhere. Did she? Because you never referenced that.
Once at the bar with Ryan, and then once after Ryan leaves.
Right, but at the point where in the middle of page 4, when they're talking about it and then Ryan gets up and leaves, she hasn't lit up at that point, right? And I feel like she would have lit up earlier.
Yeah, I guess I feel like, it's a mechanical detail that we're just assuming that she's smoking. I mean, I do show her lighting a cigarette later, but I just don't know how many times I want to show that.
Yeah, I think probably, to me, it felt like I needed to know at that point, was they were talking about her smoking and stuff, that she lights up then.
So it's a trigger for the thought or the comment, correct?
Yeah, because I was like, oh, we never saw her light up anywhere, even though they're talking about it. So again, just kind of read through it and see if it jumps out or anything. I think the bigger thing for me was I'm still not sure about Anna, and I felt a little not frustrated at her, but frustrated with her a little bit. That she wanted to stay out at the bar instead of going home with Ryan, because she needed to cleanse her palate. And I'm assuming the cleansing of her palate is referring to her parents, though she hasn't really done a whole lot with her parents enough for me to feel like her palate needs cleansing. So it's like, why is she staying out doing all this stuff when she hasn't really been doing enough with her parents? So I think I felt frustrated with her, that I feel like she's just wasting her time here instead of doing the stuff that she needs to do in this small town so that she can get back to her assignment in her big town. But she's just kind of dawdling around.
So you want more of the why.
I want, if she's gonna dawdle at the bar, if she's gonna leave mom and dad, and I think I said this last time too, instead of being there with dad and observing him and watching him and stuff, then I need a good reason for why she's going out to the bar. And I think that's totally plausible. I think she could do that, but we just haven't been seeing why she would get all dolled up and go out. Mm-hmm. And then stay out instead of going back home with her friend. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So is she trying to hook up with somebody else or what?
The big question mark, isn't it?
Yep. Yep.
Pam, what was your thought on that?
I thought I was the only one. I'm really struggling with Anna's character. I feel like I'm getting inconsistent feelings about her, in that she leaves New Orleans because dad is missing. So she races home. She's frustrated because it's interfering with her work. But when she gets home, she doesn't really do anything. She comes to the bar and makes a comment to Ryan that, I had to leave. You know how it is. It's stressful. And I thought, my comment was, but why is it stressful? You haven't done anything. And then she comes here and she's dressed. She does the thing with her ponytail over her shoulder and fixes her crochet. And I don't know if she's trying to flirt with Ryan, if she's trying to flirt with Jackson. I'm losing, who is Anna and what does she want? When you were having the discussion with Adam about her not liking the small town, that feels very authentic for her. And I feel like if she's coming to the bar, then the scene she has could be used to build that. For example, the thing about Hazel, I also wondered why Ryan didn't roll his eyes or something when she cracked the otter joke. But that might be a time where she's almost repulsed by, oh my God, that could have been me. I could have been sitting here at my age with a 3-year-old kid or something. Not that she'd say that, but showing some kind of indication to build upon the fact that this small town, this bar that I came for, this 34 jersey hanging up here, this is just an extension of high school. This is awful. But I'm not feeling that. But yet I think I'm not sure if that's what you want me to feel as a reader. I'm not sure what to think of Anna, because I had the same reaction as Stacey in that I kind of didn't like her a little bit in this scene. And I couldn't really put my finger on it because I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure what she's doing, why she came to this bar in the first place. It's different if she had a big blow up with mom and dad, or if she was exhausted and she couldn't take anymore and she left. So I don't know. I'm just not sure why did she come to this bar?
No, I don't think you missed it. I think you're both right that there needs to be a little more sort of conflict problems with the parents in the previous chapter and a half, maybe, where it kind of builds and they might have an argument. I think that would be worth doing. And then that's sort of, it propels her to be like, well, I'm out of here. Plus a few more just notes, and they don't have to be long, of her just like sort of feeling like a teenager all over again, being back in this town and reverting back to her old ways and that kind of thing, which is part of why she goes out. I agree that while she's at the bar, a few more negatives about the town would help. I think the Jersey is a perfect, Jersey, seeing him. I mean, there's stuff about the way he sort of looks and acts and stuff, but a little more obvious with those, sure,
So
but I get it. You go back home and you're like, after 2 days at home, you want to do what you used to do in your hometown, which was go to the corner bar. And I don't know, I got her motivation, but I think it's worth just saying more for the reader.
I would put more on stage right now, Melanie. You can always pare it back later, but right now, I don't think it's easy to identify with her. I just don't. I don't think she's she didn't have to be a likable character. She's not a likable character. Okay, she just isn't. I don't like her. But she's interesting, but I'd like to know more about her. And I'd like to know what you want us to know about her. And I think you may feel that it's overly explained, but overwrite right now, and then pare it back later. But you have to give the reader a reason to feel her compelling. Right now, she feels just kind of bratty and rebellious, like a 17-year-old. And maybe, like Alex is saying, she's falling back into that trap, which is a very interesting way to go with it. But we have to feel more sort of identifying with something in her, even if it's that struggle, even if she knows on some level that she's being kind of, oh my God, here I go. I'm acting just like I did 10 years ago. I can't even freaking believe this. And then she does something even worse. You know, right now, she doesn't have to be a mature character or a perfect character, but she has to be one that we can relate to a little bit more. And right now, it's in your head. And all of it is in your head. And I know some of the big picture stuff that you're planning on doing with this, and that you are beginning to do with this, which is very exciting, which is this whole idea of she does see differently. And that's something about artists, is they're often misunderstood. They are often mocked and undervalued because they see things differently. But that's not really being developed enough that we can relate to, identify with, and empathize with her. Okay, so even if it's feeling too obvious to you now, pull that out for the reader. And you can, after you finish the first draft, you can go back and decide if you want to then refine that and distill that down, get rid of some of it and so forth. But you have to keep us moving forward with you. And you've got all the parts here. You've got every single part here, plus some, plus oodles of potential subtext to exploit, okay, that can go in later, or that can go in now, but you have to have that foundational stuff for 80% of your audience, is what I think. But I think it's all, I do think it's all there. Pam, do you have more thoughts? Because I didn't give you a chance to really give.
I think that captured most of them. I think I caught a couple of things. I caught the POV shift when you said Jackson preferred the cat and mouse interactions. I'm like, she wouldn't know that, so you can't put that in there because this is Anna's perspective. I caught the otter thing. I think that was a little detail that threw me off too, why he didn't react. And I just kept wondering, does she like Ryan or Jackson? Is she flirting? It just comes back down to, I don't feel I know her well enough to understand the subtleties. So I think Celeste has a point in that it's not that you have to be really obvious and get rid of your subtleties, but it's just like when my fantasy writers, not mine, create a new world, it's so clear in their heads. But if you start using these weird names and I don't know what you're talking about. So if we get a foundation for Anna, the fact that if she doesn't like this small town, if coming back, if she reverts to her teenage self, if she's being a 17-year-old, then I kind of want to see that. Right now, it doesn't seem that way. It's just, this is who Anna is. I don't get it. If there's a way to show that she is the person, even if it's an interaction with someone else, even if Jackson or Ryan says to her, like, geez, you're 17 again, even that could be an observation from another character that may go to helping the reader say, oh, she's really immature, and yet we thought of her as mature because at the very first chapter she was doing a very mature, responsible thing, giving up her Las Vegas early to go check on her dad. And that's all kind of, I don't know where any of that is right now. So yeah.
Does this make sense, Melany? Or do you just feel picked on?
No, I mean, I just think I need to surface things more from the subtext. You know, I won't, but I feel like I could show you things in there that if I pointed them out, you'd be like, oh, okay. But it's obviously not clear enough.
Right.
So,
And remember, you can't do that with a reader because you won't be there.
Right. So,
So,
and it sounds like it's pretty consistent among you guys. So I need to consider how to bring some of that more, make it more obvious.
let me mention one thing before you go on, Alex. I see her as trying to impose order on something that doesn't make sense. That's her sort of compulsion with the cutting the apples, for example. She's always trying to impose order. She's trying to frame things in a way that not only makes sense, but means something. So when she's doing this, it's not comporting with the way she's behaving, and yet you're not filling it in with that sort of interior monologue to explain the gap. Does that make sense? She's very smart. She's very talented, things are complex. And the fact that she is this photographer who's always looking at things in a slightly different way, reframing them, looking at the contours of things, looking at the outlines of things, really looking closely at them, and looking at them in a way that other people just don't understand. That's got to be horribly frustrating. And the fact that she's marginalized rather than celebrated for her ability, it has to be demoralizing, right? So there's a lot that's going on in there that I'm not getting any access to. I think it's that access, a little bit more access to that deeper layer. So as much as I agree with everything that Adam said, I'm going to go deeper. I want you to go deeper, you know, and pull that out for us so that we can glom onto her and root for her and be curious about, well, how is she going to handle this and that? And what does this mean? And then we're looking for subtext that relates to what we know rather than it just feeling more random. But Melany, what I want to say is, and especially with recent work that I've seen of yours where you've revised in such an incredibly strong fashion, that I know it's all there. I know it's all there in your head. Just show it to us, because you'll be doing us, it'll be a gift to the reader, okay? Because I know it's all there. It's just not, it's not obvious enough to us. It doesn't have to be overly obvious, but it's not obvious enough, okay? It was a good ending to the chapter. Why is she doing this? I want to know the why. Just pretend I'm sitting on your shoulder and I'm 5. Okay, that should help. All right. If you have any other questions, let me know. If not, Melany, would you offer Stacey some comments on his piece?
Bardsy delivers the tools, guidance, and support you need to produce compelling novels. Our well-researched and thoroughly tested approach includes our minimum complete story, a 90-second exercise that keeps your writing on track while fueling creativity. Bardsy Publishability Index, a 23-dimension checklist that offers attainable goals and provides actionable feedback. And our brand new comprehensive character developer that helps you construct unforgettable characters. Come see for yourself at Bardsy.com today. Try our workshop or enter our first chapter contest. Then, when you're ready, Elite Membership delivers writing groups, personal coaching, and a curated community. With Bardsy, your work will captivate everyone, from agents to publishers, and, most importantly, your readers.